And those of you coming in over Zoom land, please, if you can't, turn on your cameras. Guys, today we're going to be talking more about leadership. But before we get there, guys, a couple of reminders. We're going to be continuing Chapter 6 with a little luck. We might even be completing Chapter 6 today. Are we getting together on Friday? We're not, because you guys are going to be working on your submissions that are due on Monday for your stock games. So remember, guys, get them in by midnight on the 9th. And if you go to Chapter 16, there's a submission link. Remember the following. Cite your sources in text. Check your math. Do not copy and paste. If you copy and paste a direct quote, it better be in quotations. I do not want to cite anybody for plagiarism. Guys, right now, a couple of you did not submit the What Franchise Would You Start discussion post. I straightened out the confusing links on the page. It's 10 easy points. I'll still give you the points. If you haven't posted yet, if you got a 0 on it, please post. And again, guys, our next test, based on your votes, is going to be next Wednesday at 11/11. Well, 11/11 is the date. Guys, we're going to be doing that as a remote exam. What does that mean, you may ask? It means I'm still going to show up in person. If you want to come here and take the exam here, that's fine. But I'm going to be asking you all to attend via Zoom. Now, attendance for this test means you got to have Zoom on, you got to have your camera on, and I'm asking that I want to put this in a very respectful way. Do not violate my trust. If I'm allowing you to take this remotely, for example, write your own answers, no copy and paste. Take the test as though you were in the room. We clear, guys? I'm going to trust you on this. But again, you got to have your cameras on if you're coming in over Zoom. And guys, in terms of our final exam, just a reminder, same scenario. If you have a reason why you can't be here, whether it's quarantine or other, on the 23rd, let me know. I'm going to be giving that as an in-person exam, and it's going to be whatever we cover in class that wasn't on the second test. Any questions where we're at here so far? All make sense? Excellent. Guys, we're going to start with a little bit of review here. So here we go. I'm going to ask you, what kind of power is this? People like Professor Patrick because he lives by his word and is friendly to everyone. Is that legitimate power? Is that referent power? Is that legitimate power? Is that reward power? Is that coercive power? Is that expert power? Is that referent power? What kind of power is it? What kind of power might this be? Is it the power of love? No, but it's another kind of power. What kind of power is it? Yes, sir. It is referent power. Very good. All right, people listen to Vanessa because her title is president. Is it legitimate power, reward power, coercive power, expert power, or referent power? She's got a title. So what kind of power is it this side of the room? Yes. It is legit. She is too legit to quit. Anybody know what rapper that came from? It's a 90s rapper. Same guy who did You Can't Touch This, MC Hammer. Stop. Hammer time. What type of power is this? This one's going out to Zoom land. Guys, Jim threatens his workers with punishment and threats of unemployment. Is that legitimate power, reward power, coercive power, expert power, or referent power? What kind of power might that be, Zoom land? What do you think?
Is it coercive?
It is coercive. Anytime you're trying to exert power over somebody, you're coercing them. Guys, for people in the room, does coercive power work effectively in the long run? No, people don't want to stick around for that kind of treatment. You're going to have a high turnover facility if somebody else can get another job because nobody likes being coerced. Coercive is correct. All right, Jill's coworkers listen to her, this side of the room, because she can write code like nobody else. She works for a technology company. What kind of power does she have? She has expert power. Yes, she does. One more. We have Randy, who has the power to give raises and promotions, which, by the way, our dean of the School of Business, his name is Dr. Randy Fry, so he does have this power. Is it legitimate, reward, coercive, expert, or referent? Reward. If he can give me a raise for working hard, he's got reward power. Very good, guys. Well, let us continue, guys. When we start talking about empowerment, can anybody think of an example before I go into any definitions here at all? If I say, hey, I'm empowering you to make a decision, what do I mean by that? I'm empowering you. What does it mean? Anybody have a guess? What does empowerment mean? If somebody is empowered, what are you doing to them? We know part of the word is power. So what does empowerment mean? Yes, sir. Giving somebody authority. Excellent answer there. Why do employees like that?
that?
Yeah, they're we're giving them power. We're trusting them. When you empower people, guys, you're giving them the ability to make independent decisions, to have a say-so in their fate and the way things play out. I don't know if you guys remember, on Monday, I empowered you guys to make a choice. What choice did I give you on Monday? We took a poll. What did I give you a choice about? Exactly. I empowered you. You guys got to make a decision when you're taking the exam because what's better for you. So that's empowerment. Guys, I love sheets. It's no mystery that I like coffee. I was at the dentist yesterday, and my dental hygienist said to me, "Do you drink a lot of coffee?" And I said, 1 to 2 pots a day. And she looked at me and said, "Pots?" And I said, "Yeah, pots." When I go to Sheets, for example, there was one time that the light was flashing on the coffee maker, meaning the coffee was old. I didn't want old coffee. The lady who was working there saw what happened, and gave me a coupon for a free coffee saying, "We're sorry you got bad coffee today." She didn't have to ask her supervisor. She was able to do that on her own accord. When you empower employees to make decisions, you're giving them more responsibility. They may like their job better. And the other part of it, too, if you're a manager, you're doing less supervision. I love this form of management. This is more of a democratic style of management. It's how I always tried to manage when I was running an organization. Well, then we get into a corporate culture. Sheets, for example, is a corporate culture of empowerment and sharing of power and openness. Everybody's got a different corporate culture, guys. Corporate culture means the shared beliefs that we have, what we think as a group, what applies to our organization, what are the norms, for example. It's not something that immediately happens. It gets shaped over time based on the people in the organization and what we tolerate and what we promote. We see this culture play out in the people that we recognize. For example, how many of you have ever watched a movie or read anything about Steve Jobs? What do the popular sources say about Steve?
That he was pretty much a madman.
He's crazy. I mean, he's a genius, but he's crazy. So his company absolutely prioritized innovation and hard work over the well-being of employees. Who here among you can remember Sheets? I said for every dollar they pull in revenue, how much is profit? Does anybody remember? It's 1 cent. That's absolutely correct. What does that say about the company and how they spend their money? They reinvest in their employees. So they care about their people. So Apple and Sheets maybe have two different company philosophies. But then we also get into even symbols. For example, I love Nike. They're my favorite athletic shoes. And their symbol, the swoosh, is recognizable globally as performance. So the way that we interact, the way we recognize people, all of these things are part of our culture. And it forms over time. We've even got subcultures. Guys, we have different parts of St. Francis that have different cultures. We got our academic culture. We got our athletic culture. Within our athletic culture, we have multiple teams that have their own cultures. We've got school cultures. We've got folks who are PAs. We've got folks who are business majors. We have folks who are English majors. We all have our own cultures, but we're all under the umbrella of St. Francis's culture. What I would like you to do today, guys, if you would, just as part of the exercise, using your phones, please tell me in one word. Describe St. Francis in one word. When I say St. Francis to you, what's the first word that comes to mind? Depending on the mood you're in that day, it could be a different word, but we're going to go with pollev.com/KentTalkin063, and I'm going to join in with you. Oh, family, I love it. I knew this was risky today. Whoa, the prison word's getting big. Make sure everybody gets a chance to answer here. All right, so the words that are coming up, we got We got home and prison. And prison is not exactly what I expected. Student-centric, innovative, unique, careless, warm. We've got positive and negative terms up here, guys, that are part of our culture. Right now, for anybody who is maybe somewhere other than campus right now, I can understand what the term prison might come up. It's definitely a term that if I asked this question in January of this year, I might have gotten a different answer, but I can understand that, guys. But my point is, all of these things, other than maybe the word prison, all of these characters, sometimes you just got to roll with it, man. Sometimes you just got to go with it. Other than the word prison, all these other terms are things that people likely every year would have said because it's a culture that's evolved over time. I know Torv gets slammed an awful lot, but how many of you, by show of hands, have had a positive interaction with somebody making breakfast for you there? Has anybody been nice to you there? How many of you guys have talked to Armando? Isn't he nice? He's part of our culture. He's part of our fabric here. If you ever have how many of you have ever met Dr. Fry, by the way? Like, had a personal conversation with him? Is he not one of the warmest people on the planet? He's one of the people who really espouses our culture. And this is not something that happens overnight. It's something that grows and evolves. You cannot force culture to happen. It happens on its own. So all of these things, guys, are part of our culture. And again, I hope the big P word is not one I see next time I ask the question, but you know what? I appreciate your honesty. So guys, in terms of how, just to check in, how can we influence other people? If we're a leader, we can influence people by empowering them. We can influence people by telling them what they're doing right. If you've ever heard the term performance management, what it means is we don't just tell people what they're doing wrong, we tell them what they're doing right. I'm going to put this question out to my colleagues in Zoom land. If I only ever told people what they were doing wrong and never told them what they were doing right, why would that not work out well? Any thoughts, guys? If I only ever told... Exactly right. So if you just tell somebody what they're doing wrong all the time, the only thing they'll ever do is try not to make mistakes. They'll never excel. They'll never be as fully actualized. They can be very good. So that's a way that we can manage and empower people and change behavior. And again, we know what corporate culture is because we just did a little experiment in corporate culture. Well, we're going back to the managerial processes, guys. Obviously, we have people who are planning as managers, and we also have the controlling function. If you're managing, the very word manage means to control. So we're looking back at our mission, which drives our company, and we're determining, are we hitting our goals or not? Are we controlling how the organization works? And it means once you set that plan, the controlling function is how you execute the plan, how you make sure that we're sticking to what we decided we wanted to do in the first place. So here's how the control process works. It's a nice little diagram out of our text. I really enjoy it. I think it's very clear. I want to phrase this exactly how it's going through my head, because it will come out wrong, and you guys will get the wrong thing out of it. I want you to get the right thing out of it. Does everybody in your organization have to be an excellent performer to have a successful? Derek, you're shaking your head no, and you're correct. Why is that absolutely correct? But you're so exactly right. You are so totally right. Let's say, for example, you and I own a McDonald's together, and we knew that we had to put out 10 hamburgers every 5 minutes. If we have one person who's putting out 15 hamburgers, that's great because it's very effective, but the person who's the average performer is still getting the job done, right? Yeah, not everybody has to be excellent. So you set performance standards and goals, which means it's not realistic in most organizations to expect everybody is going to be an overachiever. So you want to set standards that people can actually hit. Then you're going to measure performance. How do we measure performance? I measure performance as a teacher when I grade your work. We measure performance as a manager when we're seeing, does somebody make as many hamburgers at the level we want to make them in the time that we set to make them? When we get into comparing actual performance to established standards, we're looking back to say, well, if we expected that somebody would be able to make 10 hamburgers an hour and all 12 of our employees are making 15, well, we need to up the performance standard. The flip side is, if we're expecting everybody to make 10 hamburgers an hour and they're only making 5, either we got a problem with the process, we're hiring bad people, or our expectations are completely out of whack. Once we determine how we're actually performing versus the standards we set, We can make corrections. We can change the process. We can change the people we're hiring, for example. And finally, the reason this is a cycle is anything you learn from that goes back into the performance standards. What a wonderful cycle. It works so well. This is the control process of management. When you have people who are quote-unquote line managers, this is what they do. So I think it's important to also say in organizations, actually, let's see where we're at on time here. We're doing pretty good on time. I need a second to take a sip of coffee, and we're going to continue on. Any questions, guys? Questions or comments before we continue? Actually, I need a second to get my brain reset before we get into the next part. And I feel like this is a good day for talking philosophy. I'm going to tell you guys something that the worst manager I ever had told me about careers. This guy was a terrible manager. He was just not a good human being. He did, however, say to me, when you are thinking about where you want to go in life, when you're thinking about your career, when you're thinking about the path you're taking in college, etc., and this was good managerial advice. So for everything this guy did wrong, he kind of fixed it in this one comment. He said, don't chase money. Chase success in doing something that you love. If you're only chasing the money, at the end of the day, all you will have is money. If you chase success in what you love, the money will come because you'll have a passion for what you do. And even though I didn't have a passion for what this guy was asking me to do for my job, I never forgot those words of advice. So the other piece of advice this individual gave to me, ironically, because he was a terrible manager, he gave me this piece of advice. If you want to be a leader, emulate the leaders you love and respect, and try not to be like the ones that you don't. Very simple, very fundamental, but it works. Okay. Well, guys, in terms of how we run management in organizational settings, managers in the operational part of things basically have three roles: information, interpersonal, and decision making. We're going to go through what each of those means. So if we get into the information role, that means that we are watching what happens in the company. So we're monitoring what happens in the company. I'm walking around my McDonald's and seeing what's getting done. I disseminate information, so monitoring information, disseminating information. Hey guys, we got new guidelines coming in because of COVID-19. Here's what you need to know about working here. So that's disseminating information. Acting as the spokesperson means we've got central management. I'm a line manager, and I have to carry the orders down from management. I'm saying them to you. These are all information. Anytime we're passing on information, this is part of our information role. Then we get into the interpersonal role. To me, by the way, this is my favorite part of management. I love people. My favorite discipline to teach is human resource management because I love working with people. I honestly do. So in an interpersonal role, if you're a manager, you're the face of the company. Have you ever heard the expression, guys? The buck stops here. Who has heard that expression? By show of hands. Really, nobody's ever heard that expression? Nobody. Wow. The buck stops here means basically somebody has to accept responsibility. And if you are a manager, you've got to do that. You've also got to be a leader in that sense. Although not all managers are leaders per se, you still have to lead people in taking change. And you're also, by the way, if you're a manager and you're into the interpersonal role, you're serving as a liaison. A liaison means you're connecting people who are working with management. And then finally, we get into decision roles. Entrepreneur. Who here can remember, guys? We had an entrepreneur in McDonald's who created something pretty amazing not too far from here. What am I talking about? One of the biggest fast food items in all history. What am I talking about? It was a big cheeseburger. The cheeseburger is so close, but it's bigger than a cheeseburger. What is it? Milkshake. Oh, you're so close. So we got a guess for cheeseburger milkshake. Yes. Thank you so much. The Big Mac. Does anybody remember the guy who created the Big Mac who owned McDonald's? What did he get for his trouble? He got a plaque. How terrible is that? So you got a plaque, for example, for doing one of the biggest things ever. But he was acting as an entrepreneur within his organization. He was teaching people how to do something new and something innovative. Disturbance handler means you got people that fights in your organization. You're going to be the person breaking them up. You're going to be the person who helps people get along. Resource allocator means you're telling people if you need resources to do your job, if you need more special sauce for the Big Macs, I'm going to get it for you. And negotiating means if the company is trying to negotiate an agreement with another company or another employer, for example, you may be in that role as well. So those are all interpersonal roles. Of the three, they're all important. You've got to be a disseminator, you got to be a communicator, you got to do interpersonal stuff. These are all important things, guys. Which one you like, which role you prefer, is going to be based on your personality as well. If you're not an extrovert, the interpersonal role might not be for you. If you are an extrovert, there's lots of stuff to be done there. All kinds of decisions to be made, guys, in companies, if you're a manager. So we have two basic types of decisions. We got program decisions and non-program decisions. In other words, I was talking with a couple of my friends here about the art of improvisation. Who here can tell me, if you say, hey, we need to improvise, what does that mean? What is improvisation? I mean, what's improvisation? You wing it. I love that. So what are you doing? Oh, I'm winging it, man. I'm improvising. That's what we call a non-programmed decision. That means when something comes up that's not normal and you have to figure it out. So a program decision is something that happens all the time. It's a routine decision. Hey, we ran out of frozen burgers. Well, we better order some more because otherwise we won't be able to make any more hamburgers. That's a program decision. We need more Nikes in our foot locker. We're out of our Nike shoes. We're going to order some more. Easy peasy. Well, then we get, hey guys, we run a restaurant with a bar in it, and we just got this COVID notice. We got to figure out how to operate during a global pandemic. That's a non-programmed decision because you got to figure it out as you go. That requires skill, art, and intuition. Sometimes leaders, guys, just seem to know what to do. Has anybody in this room ever had somebody in their life, whether it was a boss or a coach or somebody, who absolutely just always knew the right thing to do? People have instincts. They just know the right things to do sometimes. And sometimes those folks are really good at making non-programmed decisions. Guys, I want you to do me a favor for 1 second, please. And you guys at home, too. Stand up for a second. Guys, I want you to just take a second here. If you're comfortable with this, and you guys at home are welcome to do this too, I want you to repeat after me. Because I know it's a very high stress time right now. We got an election that's being decided. We got 2 weeks after this until school's over, and you guys are in school at the most unique time in history. But I seriously want you to repeat these words after me. And you guys at home too, please stand up if you can. Nick's in bed. But that's okay. It's okay. I still want you to repeat after me. Turn your microphones on, guys. Everybody, please turn on your mics. Kobe and Max, here we go. Turn on your mics. Repeat after me. The words of Bob Marley. Don't worry. About a thing. Every little thing is going to be all right. One more time. Don't worry. About a thing. Every little thing is going to be all right. All right. Thank you, guys. It's going to be all right, guys. So, because we're fixing problems today, we're fixing the problems of anxiety. Well, I'm not fixing anybody's anxiety. Who am I kidding? We all have anxiety, but I'm going to do my best to make it better. Anybody who's in a situation where they got to fix stuff that goes wrong, SH_T hits the you-know-what. First, you got to know what the actual problem is. Sometimes that's the hardest part in figuring out a managerial decision. Where is the problem? Is the problem the employee? Is the problem the process? Is the problem a customer who's crossed the line? What might be the solutions to this problem? Well, we have several. Let's actually apply this here. Our problem is we have a slow drive-through in our McDonald's. What could be the cause for a slow drive-through? People are waiting forever to get their freaking food. What could be a reason behind that? What might slow down the drive-through? Joe, what might slow down a drive-through? Anything could slow it down. Derek, what might slow down the drive-through?
Could be the cashier.
We might have a slow cashier. Yes, we might. Calista, what might slow down a drive-through? Yeah, maybe we have, or the equipment's old. What might slow down the drive-through? So we have high absenteeism. Ah, that's a good one too. What else might slow down the drive-through? The equipment is broken. What else could be slowing down the drive-through? Run out of money. Yeah, we can't make change. We're running on change. Guys, out here, what else might be slowing down the drive-through? Are more people getting shortage of workers? Yeah, and we have more people getting takeout these days. It's COVID era. So our problem is we've got to slow drive-through. We're going to look at what our alternatives are after we try to diagnose the problem. Well, as it turns out, the reason the drive-through is so damn slow is because we've got 3 times the volume that we normally have coming through at lunchtime because nobody wants to get out of their cars because of COVID. Well, our solutions could be we can hire more people. Well, we don't have enough space back there anyway. Maybe we need a second drive-through lane. Maybe we need to do something different in our ordering process or encourage people to use the online app or curbside pickup. So those could be our alternatives. Well, the second drive-through lane is going to be really honking expensive, so we're going to have to come up with one of the other options. So we'll hire a couple more folks. Then we're going to put the plan into action, which means we've got to advertise, we've got to hire these folks, and then finally, we're going to look back a month later and see, is our solution working or not? This is all decision-making. This is the heart of what management is all about, guys. So, what are some of the other kinds of skills you might need? Generally speaking, if you are at the bottom of the food chain, if you're an entry-level manager, you're going to be doing very routine things. You're going to be checking on people. You're going to be making sure they do their job. You're going to be looking at their numbers, maybe even checking the cash drawer at the end of the day, just because that's what you're doing. The higher up you get in a company, who here has ever heard of the 30,000-foot view? I won't call on you, but have you heard the term? How many of you, by show of hands, have ever been in an airplane? Yeah. You know one of the craziest things when you get up in the air? Can you remember the first time you flew and realizing the curvature of the earth? You get up there and you realize just how high up you are. The world looks different when you're up high. The same thing happens when you're a manager. If we're down here, like right now, for example, in the organization, I'm on the ground level. By the way, you guys are like the lifeblood of the organization. You're students. I'm down here with you guys. Let's see what's happening. As I climb the ladder further into an administration, like going up in the air, all of a sudden, the good part is I can see the whole organization. I can see the whole world and how all these parts fit together. But sometimes I'm so strategic that I need to go back and talk to the folks who are still on the ground to ask them what reality is. So the higher you get up in a company, the more you're making big picture, 30,000-foot decisions. So let's talk about this. If you're top management, guys, you got to think concept. If you're Steve Jobs, you're not just thinking about a phone. I'm going to talk about that for a minute. Why Steve Jobs was so important on this, guys. My question for you, was the iPhone the first smartphone? It was not. We had Blackberries. Before that we had, I got to bring this one in sometime. I have a vintage smartphone. This thing looks like something out of the 1970s. It's literally like this big. Guys, we had all kinds of smartphones. Why did the iPhone succeed? What was so different? Anybody know?
I only had one button.
One button, for sure. I'm sorry? FaceTime. Even before FaceTime it succeeded, but FaceTime is important too. Guys, it changed the whole game. Steve Jobs, I'm here to tell you, in my opinion, saved the music business. Because everybody was downloading MP3s, and Steve Jobs said, no, we need a way for people to buy music online. That's how iTunes came about. We need fun things for our phones to do, so we need apps. We need to get rid of the keyboard and go with a touch screen. Those are all high concept things that had to come from top management. Now, Steve Jobs was not known for his interpersonal skills, but generally speaking, people who are top management need to know and understand people. You get to middle management, yes, you still have to understand people, because remember, you're translating between executives and line-level managers. And you get down to supervisors, those folks need human skills as well, but more technical, because they're actually working on the ground. Somebody at the St. Francis University Administration does not need to know how to teach project management or Business 101. They need to know how to talk to me about it so I can tell them how the class is going. So I have more technical skills because I'm more in a ground level role than somebody who's in the administration. That's how this stuff breaks up, guys. All right, so in terms of technical skills, what we're talking about, write this down, guys. KSA. KSA stands for knowledge, skills, and abilities. So the more you are at the ground level of an organization, you have to know how things actually work. If you work for a coal mine, if you work for a factory, if you work for Ford Motor Company, you need to know how things fit together and how the product is actually made. Otherwise, how can you supervise people? That's all part of the goal. Human relation skills means you have to know how to talk to people to get things done through other people, and you need to know what motivates them. We could do an entire class just on motivation because different things motivate some people. Some people purely are motivated by money. That's okay. Some people are intrinsically motivated. That's okay. Some people are motivated by recognition. That's okay too, because you're going to have all kinds of them. And finally, conceptual skills means you know how that company fits together. You know how all the parts work together, guys. Then we get into the era that we're in right now, which is crisis management. Again, talking about somebody who can deal with non-routine problems. These are events that nobody can anticipate happening, which is what we're dealing with in COVID. Somebody who is dealing in crisis management means they're able to improvise and come up with plans on the fly. So in terms of lessons learned about managing crises, many companies over the years have had problems. Let me give you a couple examples too. Our text gives us some great examples. Does anybody remember something called the Deepwater Horizon? What was that, Erica? It was in the Gulf of Mexico, literally belched millions of gallons of crude oil into the Gulf of Mexico. In addition to, that being a terrible environmental disaster, which it was, people's livelihoods were on the line for that. People who were shrimp fishermen, for example, or who sold commercial seafood, all of a sudden everything you're pulling out of the water is dead or tainted. The guy who was the head of BP Petroleum, whose company was at fault here, basically went on the news and sort of in not so many words said he didn't really care that much. So he wasn't very good at crisis management. The flip side, for example, if you get to companies that are well managed, you had Starbucks, for example, that was getting into some discriminatory tactics in terms of the way they were treating people of color. The CEO's response to that incident was to shut down his stores and basically said, look, you guys are going to get trained on how to treat people. That's more proactive management. It was terrible that the event happened in the first place, but at least somebody actually responded. So companies have to learn from the mistakes they make, guys. Again, we're not going to go through all of these lessons learned because this is not a crisis management class. But we're almost to the end of this chapter. Actually, I'm going to do a quick time check because we're going to hit the last couple of slides. We're going to finish this chapter today. But before we continue, I would like a question or comment from somebody. It could be literally about anything. Anything you guys would like to ask or say? Tough crowd today. Wow. Yes, sir.
What's your favorite Thanksgiving food?
My favorite Thanksgiving food, I'm glad you asked that. Pumpkin pie. My Aunt Nancy used to make the best pumpkin pie in the world. And she used lots of vanilla and lots of cinnamon, no cloves. Some people like clove in their pumpkin pie, not me. She made her own crust. And here's the trick with pumpkin pie. How many of you like pumpkin pie, by the way? Pumpkin pie hits its zenith. It hits its best when it's about 3 or 4 days old, where it's in the fridge. It's been chilling the whole time. It's nice and thick. I literally, if that pie materialized and you guys left the room and I knew nobody was watching me, I would sit here and eat the entire thing. I would eat till I couldn't eat anymore. What's your favorite Thanksgiving food? Mashed potatoes. Lots of gravy? Yeah, amen. Sign me up, man. Guys, let's continue. We're going to finish this up. Guys, we know that technology is changing the way we do everything that we're working with at this point in time. From the fact we're using smartphones in class to the fact we're doing things like contact tracing and trying to figure out where COVID is going these days. So it's changed the game for everything, guys. And since March of this year, all of a sudden, everybody knows how to use Zoom. Everybody knows how to work remotely. It also has gone hand in hand with the way we manage crises. So if you were a traditional manager, you've got to learn technology at this point. We've also, guys, got challenges because nobody anymore in the United States is purely an American company. Most companies are selling or buying products and services overseas. So we got cultures, we got issues and challenges between cultures. For example, Chevy years ago, Chevrolet had a car called the Nova, which they had a hard time selling in countries that spoke Spanish. Why is that? What does Nova mean in Spanish? Does anybody know? No go. So you can buy the Chevy No Go in other places. Some things, for example, the slogans did not translate well. In some Asian cultures, finger looking good from Kentucky Fried Chicken translated as eat your fingers off. So a lot of stuff did not translate. So we've got global cultures we're dealing with at this point in time and all the complications that go with it. Again, not to understate that we can teach an entire class on that kind of content. That being said, guys, that is it for today. Guys, do we have class on Friday? We do not. You're going to be working on your portfolios, and if groups have questions, stick around.